Well, welcome to the True Man Podcast. This is an invitation of radical reconstruction of a man's masculine heart and soul in a place of safe community where we dare to ask questions deep seated inside a man and explore ways to help you become a better man, a better son, a better dad, and a better spouse, and just an all around great dude. That's what we do right here on the True Man Podcast and in the True Man community. And that's what I like to call just complete awesomeness, right? Well, welcome into the show today. Now, before I proceed, I do want to say hustle on over to True Man Life Coaching's webpage. Couple of things that you can do on that page. One, you can grab my book. Hey, we're getting ready for Christmas. Get a great book for the man that you love in your life, True Man, True Ways, a roadmap of discovery to the masculine heart. You can just hustle on out there to my books page. You will find it there, little information on what the book is all about, and you can purchase it straight from my webpage. The other thing that, and I'm going to put this in the show notes, but I want you to see on my website is about midway through the homepage there. You can sign up for my upcoming newsletter, the True Man Inner Circle. We're going to kick this off about the first part of the year, and you'll be able to get that email just every week, some bite-sized chunks of things that can better your life, things that I wish I would have had to kickstart my week and get it going. So you can get out to the website right now, or you can click on the link in the show notes to sign up for that newsletter. And we're going to be kicking that off over the next few weeks. So you don't want to miss that. You know, I have all these thoughts that trickle into my mind from week to week. They could be conversations. They could be, my come out of my men's group. You never know where your next topic's going to come from. But in my other business, we talk about greatness quite a bit. And I'm fascinated by this idea of greatness. And I was getting ready to speak the other morning during our training piece. And I woke up and that word greatness is just flashing in my mind. Have you ever had a word or a phrase do that to you? It's just flashing, 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 going back and forth in my mind. And I'm like, boy, okay, there's something going on there. I need to talk about this. I need to dig into this. At least that's what happens when some word or phrase pops into my mind like that. And when I explore that, it's very much like, going on a hiking trail that I've never been on before. I'm just marching through the trees with all kinds of curiosity going, where is this going to take me? And if I were to redo this podcast a week or two, a month or 6 months from now, I bet it would be completely different just based on this word greatness, because there's just so much around it, don't you think? Every man, I believe, dreams of greatness, don't you? It's it's not the fame per se, not the applause that you get, but this deep, unshakable feeling that your life really matters. Everything you do equates to something. And that it's building who you become, how you lead, and the echoes that really last beyond your time on earth, that legacy that I like to talk about. But here's the truth I think that we sometimes miss. Chasing certain things. Greatness doesn't come from what's polished. It comes from what's pressed. It doesn't rise from perfection, it comes from the refining of our flaws, our failures sometimes, and our faith. And every scar, every setback, every hard lesson that you've endured is part of the blueprint that God is using to shape you into the man he called you to be. Well, it equates to something. And we may not fully understand it or embrace it at the time. I know I've experienced that. How about you? We may not experience at the time, but if we use it for perspective to gain wisdom and knowledge, it's usually leading us someplace. But, often greatness begins where comfort ends. The world sells us this version of greatness that's loud, it's fast, it's really kind of surface deep. The corner office, the big house, the highlight reel, right? But in God's kingdom, greatness starts, I think, in hidden places. Jesus didn't call his disciples to thrones. He called them to tables. He called them to fields. He called them to crosses. They didn't have chauffeurs. They walked where they needed to go. And when he said, whoever wants to be great among you must be your servant, that's in Mark chapter 10, verse 43, he flipped the entire idea of achievement on its head. So if you're waiting until you have it all together, I know I've done this, before you pursue greatness, stop waiting. Stop waiting for that perfection, because the battlefield of greatness is where you are right now. It's in that struggle. It's in the imperfection, in the grind of becoming a man after God's heart. A lot of things on social media these days don't want you to know that. They don't want you to know there is a struggle. They want you to know that you just show up, wake up one morning, and there's a $10 million house and a $20 million plane sitting in your driveway. Not true, friends. Not true. You got to go out and earn these things. And maybe those toys aren't what you need anyway. We live in a culture that hides weakness. Men are taught to suppress their flaws, bury their feelings, and fake their strengths. But here's the truth. Your flaws are not your failings. They're your forge, right? Think about Moses. Moses stuttered. He couldn't speak clearly, yet God used his voice to free an entire nation. Think about Peter. Impulsive, emotional, and inconsistent, yet Jesus called him the rock upon which he'd build his church. Think about David, a shepherd boy, overlooked and underestimated, yet called a man after God's own heart. Now, every one of these men had flaws, certainly. And those flaws became their foundation of greatness. And yours can too. Why? Because when God gets a hold of a flawed man who's willing to be molded, he turns weakness into weaponry. And you can't lead others from a place of pretending. It never works. But when you lead from your scars, from your story, what's your story in the larger story? That's when people see the real power of God working through you. Now, there's a quote, and I've used it before on the True Man podcast, from Theodore Roosevelt. I love it, love it, love it. That should be tattooed on the soul of every man who dares to live boldly. Goes like this. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. Brothers, this is the life of a true man. We don't measure greatness by perfection. We measure it by commitment. Every man in the true man community is in the arena. Some are fighting to rebuild their marriages. Some are battling the demons of addiction, insecurity, or regret. Some are clawing their way toward financial stability or emotional healing. But the fact that you're in the fight, that you've shown up, that you've chosen not to quit, means you're already walking in greatness. Failure isn't falling down. Failure is refusing to get back up. Can you relate to that? I can't even count the number of times I've fallen in my life. It's in that lowest ebb where I dug deep to find the energy to start all over. Happened to me many times. Sometimes things, they just don't go the way we plan. And that sucks. As the Marines say, we have to embrace the suck, but it isn't even realistic to think that you're going to achieve some kind of perfection every time you show up for work or in your marriage or in your life in general. Every time I go to the golf course, for example, I think it looks like a par round is coming, even though I've never broken 80. Not bad. Okay, but I keep working and striving towards that goal. And I certainly raise my hand and ask for help every chance that I can get, always looking for somebody to help me get better. And there's this myth out there that goes along with that power of asking for help. And it's what's the funny thing is that somewhere along the way, we've gotten this idea of a quote unquote self-made man. It's become the standard. But the truth is, there's really no such thing. Every man is God-made, grace-shaped, and battle-tested. Aren't we? Greatness does not come from independence. It comes from dependence on God, on our brotherhood, and on truth. And that's why communities like this one, the True Man community, exists. Because we weren't meant to walk this journey alone, or we weren't meant to sharpen one another. We are meant to sharpen one another like iron sharpens iron. We tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable, and we carry each other's burdens when life knocks us down. See, a true man doesn't hide behind the mask. Oh, I've got it all together. Doesn't work. He stands before his brothers and says, I'm still growing, I'm still learning, but I'm still here. Now, friends, that's greatness. That's courage. That's the kind of man God can use. You can't have greatness, friends, without fire. And every blacksmith knows this. Raw metal doesn't become strong until it's heated, hammered, and shaped. Sometimes we got to take a trip up to the anvil. We got to go through the heat. We got to be hammered. We got to be shaped. That's the way God works. He puts us through that, through adversity, loss, disappointment, not to destroy us, but to define us. Now, you may be in a season right now where it still feels like everything's on fire. Your faith, your finances, your relationships, your peace. But do remember this, and I have to tell myself this from time to time. Fire doesn't just burn. It purifies. It removes what doesn't belong, so what remains can stand strong. Romans chapter 5, verses 3-4 says this, we glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. Every trial you faced is shaping your character right now. Every setback that has been preparing you and your soul. You are being refined, friend, for greatness, not by avoiding the fire, but by walking through it with God. Have you ever experienced it before? So you know it can be done. It shall be done. Now our world worships results, doesn't it? Numbers, titles, recognition, but God measures greatness differently. He looks at faithfulness. He looks at obedience. He looks at how you love, how you serve, how you endure when no one's watching. Now, some men will build businesses, ministries, or movements that touch millions. Others will faithfully raise their children, love their wives, and lead a home quietly but powerfully. Both are equally great in God's eyes. Now, the goal isn't to achieve what others call success, it's to fulfill what God calls stewardship. Now, you might never get the applause of the world, but if you've given your best in obedience, well, heaven already knows your name. Now, the road to greatness is long. It's hard fought. It will test your patience, your purpose, and your pride. And there are going to be days when you question whether it's worth it. Have you done that? There will be moments you feel unseen and unappreciated. You ever felt those emotions? There will be battles you lose, lessons that you wish you didn't have to learn, and scars, well, you didn't ask for. But hear me on this. You're not failing just because it's hard. You're being forged into the man that God needs you to become. Every man of greatness in Scripture fought private battles before public victories. Joseph was betrayed before he was blessed. David hid in caves before he ruled in palaces. Paul was in prison before he preached to nations. And God doesn't waste the struggle. He's using it to build something unshakable in you. And when you walk with God, greatness becomes a partnership, not a performance. You see, you bring the will, the desire to grow, to serve, to live with a purpose. And God brings the way, the strength, the wisdom, and the divine opportunities that open when you walk in obedience. And Psalm chapter 37, verse 23 says, "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way." Now that means your steps, even the ones that stumbled, were not wasted. They were ordered, directed, designed to lead you toward the man God created you to be. And when you partner with God, even your detours become your divine preparation. Oh, have I learned this oh so well. So at True Man Life Coaching, we don't chase perfection. We chase excellence, exceptionalism, doing the best with what we have, where we are, while honoring God in the process. That's what separates boys from men and men from true man. Perfection isn't a performance trap. It keeps men ashamed and afraid to fail, but excellence is an act of worship. It says, God, I'll give you my best, even when it's messy, even when I'm still figuring it all out. It's okay to admit it. You don't have to be perfect to be powerful. You just have to be willing to grow, willing to fight, willing to stand back every time you fall. You see, that's how greatness is built. One step, one day, one act of obedience at a time. And when your life comes to its final chapter, and we know it will, greatness won't be measured by what you built or what you owned. It's going to be measured by who you became and whose lives were changed because you dared to live fully for Christ. Now, there's a quiet greatness in the man who keeps showing up when no one else notices. There's greatness in the father who prays for his kids every night. There's greatness in the husband who chooses forgiveness over pride. There's greatness in the business owner who runs his company with integrity, even when cutting corners would be easier. There's greatness in every man who refuses to settle for average and keeps striving to honor God through every season. What if the very thing that you think disqualifies you is the thing that God plans to use most powerfully? Think about that. Your past mistakes, your broken relationships, your moments of doubt or failure. These aren't tombstones, they're testimonies. And 2 Corinthians chapter 12 verse 9 reminds us, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." That means God's greatness doesn't show up in strength, it shines brightest through your weakness. And when you stop hiding your flaws and start offering them to God, he turns them into fuel for your mission. So, men of the True Man community, this is what we're all about. We are not perfect men. We are not pursuing men. We're men in process, being molded, stretched, and refined for greatness. We don't hide from fire. We walk through it. We don't pretend we've arrived. We invite others into the journey. We don't compete against one another. We sharpen each other because greatness is not a solo pursuit. Heck no, it's a brotherhood. Each man here carries a story worth telling, a fight worth fighting, and a faith worth building together. We're rediscovering what it means to lead, to love, to live with excellence, and all for the glory of God. Now, in closing, I want to say this. You don't need permission to step into greatness. You just need courage. Courage to face your flaws, courage to own your story, courage to serve others with humility, courage to fight. Keep fighting when others have quit. Because the man who dares to step into the arena, who gets scarred, tired, and tested, but keeps fighting anyway, that's the man God calls great. You know, greatness isn't about never failing. It's about never staying down. And if you stay faithful, if you walk humbly, serve boldly, and trust God through every test, you'll look back one day and realize every flaw was a lesson, every fight was a shaping, every failure was a setup for something greater. You were never chasing greatness. No, God was building it in you. How about that? How does that make you feel? See what happens when a word like greatness pops into my head and I get to go explore it. I get to pass it on to you and help you learn about greatness, hopefully achieve greatness. That would be the goal. Now, as I mentioned at the forefront of this podcast today, would love it if you go out, sign up for the True Man Inner Circle newsletter. We're going to be kicking that thing off here rather shortly. And if you heard anything today and it struck something up, hey, you know, you're welcome to reach out to me. My calendar's on my website as well at truemanlifecoaching.com, or you can always send me an email at mike@truemanlifecoaching.com. I love hearing from you guys. I love hearing your questions and your thoughts on the podcast. In fact, if you enjoyed this podcast, please go out on your favorite platform and leave me a great review. Well, until next time, don't just have a mediocre day. No. Go out and achieve greatness and have your very best day ever. God bless you, and thanks for listening.